I am Vinnie Tortorich. Folks, your good intentions have been stolen, but don't worry. I'm here to help you get them back. You may be soft and succulent at the beginning of this process, but hang in there. Before long, you will be lean and mean, guaranteed. Yeah, I hate to admit it, folks, but I've seen that man live. Don't ask me how I ended up there, but sometimes things happen. There was a girl involved, and she wanted to go, and they were playing at the Sanger down in New Orleans back in the 80s. So I sat there for 2 hours. The things we will do to try to get laid. Air supply. But we're going to be talking a lot about air and air quality today. I've been wanting to talk to this guy ever since I learned about him a couple of weeks ago. And he seems like a pretty interesting dude. He seems pretty straightforward. Everything I've read about him on the internet and everything I've learned about him seems like a pretty cool guy. I'm talking about none other than Mr. Mike Feldstein. Yeah. Now, Mike, is it Feldstein or Feldstein?
I usually say Feldstein, but I mean, who really knows?
Yeah.
Feldstein.
I should have asked you off the air, but I would go, when it's EIN, I go, that's Steen. That's close enough for me.
You got it.
Mike has a little company, folks. He knows a lot about, just air quality. He's the founder of Jaspr, one of those companies where they don't put the last vowel in, Jaspr, Jaspr. That means it's a young, cool company because they left the E out before the R. That's what that means.
It does.
Mike knows a little something about remediation, especially when it comes to wildfires. And folks, if you're out in California, and we know a big group of my audience is out in California, you might want to pay close attention to this particular podcast. But I have a lot of other questions for Mike. So, Mike, glad to have you on the show, man.
Thanks, man. Let's talk about air.
I'm going to start with, I'm going to pull one out of left field.
And by the way, the cool name thing, the JASPR situation, you do. I did that for two reasons. We were inspired by this mountain in northern Alberta, Canada, called Jaspr with the E, north of Banff. The air there is so clean that companies bottle it up and sell bottled air to China. So they have some of the cleanest air in the world. The thing is, first of all, you can't get the domain name for the company if you spell it like the word, but also if you choose a name that is already a kid's name, a dog's name, you will never show up. People could Google Jaspr and you'll never have a chance to show up online. And if you can make up a word, then you can really own that word. So yeah. That is the why behind the missing.
I know the why from a man who owns a lot of .coms, right? I owned a vitamin company, a coffee company, a foods company. I've learned that you got to figure out things. And sometimes there's a really cool name and you want to get it, but the people squatting on it want $60,000 and you'll go, okay, screw that.
Yeah, it's not that important.
Yeah. Name, what's in the name, right? I'm gonna come out of left field. I'm coming out swinging, Mike. Sorry.
Let's see what you got.
Let's see what you can handle.
Okay.
So the house I'm sitting in, I built my basement out. That's where I'm sitting in my basement right now as my office / full-on gym. I have a squat rack. I have aerobic equipment. I have dumbbells over here, and then it goes off into a man cave. Complete with beautiful leather couches and everything with the big giant screen television to watch football and what have you. I got speaking of Canada, Hallmark movies. That's right. I watch F1 racing, American football, the real football, and Hallmark Christmas movies. That's just who I am. But when I got this space, when I first bought this house, these people come in and they come into the basement and they go, you got yourself a problem. Would you like to guess at what that problem was?
Tell me.
Radon gas. And I'm sitting there going, radon gas. Now, I remember that being a big thing out in California, but California says everything's a problem, right? They think that the amount of acrylamide in coffee is going to kill you. So coffee is known to the state of California as being a problem. Nowhere else in the world is coffee a problem. As a matter of fact, coffee is the healthiest drink in the world. But to the state of California, coffee is a problem. Smoke all the pot you want, not coffee.
Not coffee.
California is the state of California. So I went, okay, radon gas was a douchebag problem in California. Is it a real thing? And they convinced me. The guy comes in here with something that looked like a Geiger counter. Do you know what a Geiger counter?
Yeah.
They used to, radiation. You put the Geiger counter up to something, and he goes, "Look at all this radon gas in your basement." And I went, "Okay, I don't know if it's real or not. I just know I don't want it." Matter of fact, I did what I do, Mike. I got 2 other guys in and didn't even tell them about the other guys. I said, "Hey, just check this." And their little Geiger counter, it's not, I don't know what the meter's called.
It's just a radon monitor.
And they both came up with almost exactly the same numbers. Matter of fact, they have to leave the thing down here. They left a device here for like 2 days and came back and read a device.
That's how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah. Was it 2 days or a week? I can't remember. I wasn't living here at the time. I was in my other house. But
it could have been either one.
Yeah, it was for a while. And they all came back with the same number saying, "Yeah, you got this gas." And I went, they all came up with the same number or thereabout. That means I got myself a problem. So I have
triple verified radon problem.
Yeah. You know what they say about 2 experts? The only thing they can agree on is that the third guy is wrong, right? So I always use that method. So I get a company to come in and do remediation. And I know that you're a remediation expert.
That is my background. Yeah, I'll get into that.
They came and several $1,000s later, I can't remember how much they had to, do the ground, get underneath the house, the plastic, the this, the that. They had to put special fans in, exhaust, get this gas out of here. Now, they come in and check every now and again. They change out something and they check every several months and they come in. It's all part of the deal or whatever. Was I being duped or did I need this? Or was this radon gas going to hurt me? Well, give me the lowdown, Mike.
So it depends on, without knowing the concentration, it's hard to say.
Okay.
With that said, a couple power stats for people is they do say radon. People debate if it's the number one cause of lung cancer out in non-smokers. So after smoking, it's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Debatably, 1 in 10 to 1 in 15 homes have high levels of radon, but you do need to test it for a few days to a week because it does fluctuate. It's debatable what the safe amount of radon is. And like the first, uranium is naturally occurring in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And then uranium half-lives and turns into radium. And then that becomes radon. And because homes are sealed very tight, the issue is that gas comes up through the slab, especially in areas that have basements. It's more of a problem. I grew up in Canada. Everybody's got a basement. Radon's usually more of a basement issue. That's where it's entering. If you have like a slab on grade style construction, it's less of an issue. So in the home that you had the radon issue, was there a basement?
Yeah, I'm in the basement now, but it's a walkout basement, right? It's a 3rd floor. They call it a basement, and the whole area that I'm on is concrete.
So the radon is definitely an issue, and the way that they deal with it, it's called a radon mitigation system. And basically they're putting a vacuum in the ground, essentially. So instead of that radon seeping into your home all over the place, they are creating a pressure so the radon goes through the pipe and then vents directly outside your home. So I would say, depending on the levels, but regardless, it's one of those things, unlike mold where you have to rip your whole home apart.
Mm-hmm.
A radon mitigation system is not that expensive. It's closer to a few $1,000s than tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I don't think I paid the moon for it, but it was worth it to do.
I think it's worth it too. It's just like one of those potential canaries in the coal mine that you're never going to know, and it would be really annoying to get lung cancer in the future and be like, I never smoked.
Right.
And they're like, have you heard of radon? You're like, test, it's high. Come on, how did I miss that one? So And it doesn't take any effort. It doesn't take much maintenance. It's not loud. It doesn't give you a big energy bill. So it doesn't create the same hype because it's not visible. It doesn't scare people as much as mold or something like that. It's not typically very noticeable in your day-to-day life. But in some states and in some provinces, radon mitigation systems are just standard now. Everybody builds with them in a new build, especially in a tight home. So I would say you did not get duped.
Okay, good. Now, we kind of did this like a Bond movie, right? Where you're looking at the end of a mission, and then we go back and Bond goes back to the headquarters. I want to go back to the headquarters with you. Give us the bona fide. I mean, you're a guy who you've studied air quality. You know how to do remediation after fires. I lived towards the end of living in LA. I lived in Woodland Hills. We had the fires come close to us several times. Every year, I was a cyclist, an ultra cyclist, and I was always on the road on a bike. There were days when they said, "Do not go outside, stay in your house," and I was like, "Oh, screw this! I got to go try. I got training to do," and I would be out there in that haze, that gray haze, and at the end of the day, I've never smoked a cigarette in my life, but it smelled like I felt like I smoked two packs, right? Like your lungs, everything is seared and burning. And you go, wow, that was a real thing. I should have maybe stayed. What's the reality of what's going on with all of these fires happening?
So I'll first just set the stage. Before I got into Jasper, what I was doing was I was traveling all around the US and Canada, hurricanes, wildfire, cleaning up floods, fires, mold, hailstorms, wherever the most catastrophe and disaster was in the country, that's where I was going.
Yeah.
So we weren't dealing with like basement leaks and small floods and kitchen fires. We were dealing with like towns that were flooded, buildings that were burnt, extreme chaos, huge mold situations. That was the background that I came from. And then in between disasters, I was consulting people on air quality. So I was going to people's homes. They were sick at home. They didn't know why. They've tried all the medicines, the supplements, the diets. They're just not feeling good. They're tired. They're fatigued. They're waking up with stuffy nose, and then they go on vacation and they feel fine, especially like a camping trip. They're like, "Oh, I'm cured. I'm better." Then they go back home and they're sick again. And then they have this aha moment: is my home making me sick? So I spent about 10 years either helping people assess if your home was making you sick. And then when there was big natural disasters, Hurricane Harvey, California wildfires, I was out in those environments cleaning, restoring, and rebuilding homes. So that's what I did for almost 10 years before starting Jasper. To answer your question about wildfires, no two fires are the same. And this most recent wildfire in January was extremely unique because often, 100,000 acres burns in the middle of nowhere and the smoke blows into town. And now you're dealing with wildfire smoke that is the byproduct of trees burning.
Right.
Okay. Not good. There's still a lot of hexavalent chromium, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, bunch of cancer causing stuff from smoke in a high degree in your home and in your neighborhood. The issue with some of these bigger fires that are close to urban environments, so the California fire, for example, 12,000 homes burnt, 10 to 20,000 cars. It's California, it's LA. Several thousand of those cars are Teslas and electric vehicles. So we don't have good data on what happens when we burn 3 or 4,000 lithium batteries.
Oof.
And when all those homes burn and you see that pile of ash, and I went to LA after the fire, there was molten rivers of aluminum in the Palisades and in Palisades in Altadena, where literally the engine block melted and you'd see the molten aluminum hardened down the street. Everything burns. And every can of paint, WD-40, every chemical, every fire retardant on your couch, your insulation, your drywall, your cleaning supplies, the cars, the fumes, all of that gets created into a very toxic smoke. So there's not great data on the health impacts of all of this, but it is not good. And to speak to the feeling that you were getting, I used to live in British Columbia in Canada, and this was early on in the Jasper days. So let's say the normal PM 2.5, which is the most common particulate number we look at, it's like a 4 or a 5 normally. So if you have a Jasper inside, it will typically be a 4 or a 5. When you see those big smoke days outside where they're telling you to stay inside, don't go outside today. It could be about 250 or 300 outside. The crazy thing is inside is still 150. So inside is still terrible. There's no filtration occurring. So all that bad air is still in your home, getting trapped in your carpets, in your beds, in your sheets, in your furniture, in your clothing. Every porous material in your home that can absorb water also absorbs smoke and all those other contaminants. So a lot of folks, they go outside and then they smell that campfire effect.
Mm-hmm.
When you come inside, you don't smell it. It's called nose blind. It's like when you're making s'mores by a campfire. You don't smell smoke until you come inside and take a shower. And you're like, I stink like smoke.
Right.
So when I would hike in British Columbia, my lungs would burn. So I stayed inside. I had my air scrubbers running at full capacity. I was able to keep my house at about a 10 or a 12. So almost, but that was with a lot of air cleaning power. So yes, on those days when they say, like, when there's a bad air quality day, you definitely don't want to be outside much. And if you are, you don't want to be exercising because you're really increasing the rate that your respiratory system is pumping that air in your body. And then B, yeah, with these wildfires, they're specifically a huge problem when homes and cars and chemicals are being added to that toxic soup. It's not just normal wildfire smoke anymore.
Yeah, it's scary to me because the Palisades in Malibu, that was I was in those neighborhoods for 31 years.
Wow.
I was a fitness trainer to celebrities, and that's where they live. And the first thing that comes to mind is, oh my God, the coffee shops I used to go to in between clients, and I think about all the homes and I watch these people's kids grow up, and the whole deal, and I knew what kind of cars some of these people had, these vintage Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Rolls Royces. And it's like all of that burned, but you never think about, you know, all of the chemicals that come from that, right? Your brain goes to, oh my God, they lost their home. You don't think about the down the road effect. As a matter of fact, the woman that will curate this podcast, Leona, is from Altadena.
Wow.
Every single house in her neighborhood except 2 burned, hers and someone else's. And even with that, her garage burned, right? Fire does an amazing thing. Everything around her is decimated, plus her garage, and I think a piece of her house, but mostly her house is standing. And she won't be back in that house. I think she told me the other day for like another year, right?
And so there's something fortunate about what you said at the end there. So often, you talk about the people who lost their home, and
Right.
that's really sad. Often the people who are most impacted are the ones who don't lose their homes.
Explain.
If you lose your home, this is sad. You've lost a lot of personal possessions. You might love this place. You might have raised a family there. It's deeply important to you, and now it's gone.
Right.
In 99.9% of the cases, it's a very clear process for the insurance company. They will typically rebuild you a new home, and you'll get a check for every single possession that was in that house. So, that doesn't make the news. That doesn't get people very angry. But most people out there are having their homes rebuilt, and they're being compensated for their possessions.
Right.
So it's a very straightforward process. There's not much fighting with the insurance company most of the time. If you lived within several miles and specifically hundreds of feet from a fire, so I've met people who were being forced by their insurance companies to move back home a month after the fire.
Right.
In Altadena, their insurance company was taking the position that your home is fine. This is not the case. The steel in your home. So when I was in Fort McMurray, Alberta, and I got fire and smoke restoration claims on where there's 1 or 2 homes standing in a neighborhood that was gone. I said, I'm not even going to start doing any restoration to your home because I don't think we should. I said, I'm going to fight with you tooth and nail. We're going to bring in structural engineers here to make the claim that your home is no longer structurally sound and your home is so deeply contaminated that it is actually more cost effective to knock it down and rebuild. Because, first of all, once you hit about 12 or 1300 degrees Fahrenheit, homes can burn at 1800 to 2000 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm.
Even within several hundred feet, the homes can lose up to 50% of their structural strength. The steel is no longer solid. Every window in the home, due to the heat, will expand and then contract. So when you test the window seals, the windows are no longer sealed. The insulation in the attic is now completely drenched. So I would say, look, when we test our drywall, our carpets, our flooring, every material in this home has been seeped in highly toxic smoke. This home is no longer habitable to live in. The only way to make it safe now is gutting it to the stud and rebuilding everything. Typically, this costs as much as rebuilding a new home, especially if it's structurally no longer sound and now we're reinforcing everything. So I got really good at helping people fight with insurance companies to get them to actually knock down those last. Also, the whole purpose of insurance, even though it's a cold reality, it's to protect your asset. It's
Right.
a financial instrument. So, what do you think your house is? Let's say you're in a neighborhood and all the homes are built in 1970, and now fast forward to 2030, and all the homes are built in 2025, 2026, 2027, and there's two old little tiny homes that are 40 years old. Your home is not worth much anymore.
Right.
It's now lot value. It's a teardown. So when the whole street's getting a new home and you're not, the value of your home just got killed. So that's a big, big thing because people, they want to get in their home, but I'm like, this is not okay. I tested people's homes 2-3 miles away that were contaminated, but when you're talking about within several hundred feet, the first fight that someone should be having is to get the structural engineers in there and try to get a complete loss.
Mike, and I'm putting you on the spot here. And
So
this
we
is
do.
a woman, Leona and her husband, Tom. Would you have just a conversation with them and lead them in the right direction?
Yes,
If
absolutely.
Because she's going to hear this podcast because she's got to write the notes for it. And I know that, like, I was talking to her the other day. She's like, yeah, I got to run over to the house and meet with this guy and that guy. And who knows if they've already made a deal with the devil or not. I don't know.
It's usually not there's always things you can do.
Right.
To anyone out there, we have nothing to sell and it's completely free. But jasper.co/smoke. I
Right.
found myself after the wildfires, I was having hour-long conversations with people every day. So I went to the studio and I spent 2 or 3 hours recording everything that I know about wildfire smoke.
Mhm.
How to assess your damage, how to clean your home DIY, how to hire a contractor, how to fight with insurance, what to happen if a water bomber dropped water on your home, all of it. So at jasper.co/smoke, and it's not like you have to listen to a 3 hour thing. It's 5 to 10 minute segments. Choose your own adventure based on your situation. But
And that's
yes,
all free at Jasper, right?
yeah, jasper.co/smoke.
Yeah.
I just made like a smoke detox course because I was just that way I could just send it to people in this situation. But tell her to absolutely reach out to me as well. Just while I was on my way here today, we had a local Jasper delivery. By the way, if anybody lives in Austin, a fun, cool thing we started doing, we actually hand deliver the product to people's homes. They don't even know it. So they buy it online. We go to their home, we unbox it, we do free air quality testing throughout their home.
Really?
Yes, this is something we want to scale more and more. And then if anybody through any of our like health partners we work with, anybody in the Austin area that wants to try Jasper for 30 days, we don't take credit cards, nothing. We just want more people to experience what it's like to have clean air. But often, so this lady today, her home got damaged by a flood 3 weeks ago. So we went to her home. Sorry, we're going to her home, but I'm like, hey, she's living at her boyfriend's place right now. So Wes, who does the delivery, said, hey, Mike, can we go to her house and help her deal with this flood and their mold claim? Like, honestly, like that's why I went to LA. I was just testing people's errors and advising people on insurance. I wish I could do this all day long.
Right.
Unfortunately, like it's not as impactful as having the conversation more broadly, but tell her to reach out. I'm happy to help.
Oh, I'm
It's
going to connect you
really,
guys.
really important.
Yeah, no, you guys will be connected today. Her name is Leona. Her husband's name is Tom. I won't give you their last name here on the air, but we'll talk about it later.
No problem.
Super nice people. These people didn't deserve. Nobody deserved any of
Yeah.
this, but great. Bad things happen to really good people. I want to see everything good happen for those folks.
Also, ChatGPT. Yeah, just before we leave on this point, this is one thing I did not cover in the course because I learned it after the fact. But often you're fighting with the insurance adjuster. You're saying that you want to throw out the couch. They're saying you can keep the couch. ChatGPT is an absolute wizard. Whenever you're fighting with insurance companies, You feed in the email from the adjuster and you say, please explain to my adjuster why I cannot keep my couch, why I cannot keep my record player, why I cannot keep this. It gives you these beautiful scientific arguments that explain why you can't restore stuff and why it's cheaper to
Wow.
dispose of it. And always email them. And if you ever have a call and your insurance adjuster promises you anything while you're still on the phone, say, hey, thanks. Can you please shoot me over a one-liner email just confirming that for my records? Because often, every month, they give you a new insurance adjuster. So they've promised you something, then the new guy comes along and the promise is gone. If you
Right.
have anything from them in writing, though, they will always honor it. So if they ever it's like the cop. You get you're speeding, you run through a red light or a stop sign, and they're your best friend, and they still hit you with the ticket. You're like, what the heck? I thought we were friends. So in this case, if when they're your friend, they're not your friend. They don't
Right.
work for you. They work for the insurance company. And Chat GPT is an absolute wizard. So I was using it to say, hey, my home was 200 feet from this wildfire of a home that burnt. Please explain to me what will the structural engineer find, and explain to the insurance company why there's a lot of risk for them and why it's really important that they send a structural engineer and what they'll find wrong. They'll talk about the integrity of the steel, all the stuff I talked about in a beautiful format that's polite and friendly but professional and stern. It's incredible for insurance negotiations.
That's great to know. Look, I had a friend who well, it was my wife's friend and the husband. They lived in one of those big, giant 10,000 square foot McMansions in LA and drove the fancy cars. And I remember when I first met the guy, I said, so what do you do again? He goes, I'm an attorney. And it's like, what type of law? He worked for one of the biggest health insurance companies.
Mm.
And I said, and what do you do? He goes, the job of an insurance company, any insurance company, doesn't matter if it's health or whatever, is to take your premiums and figure out how to never pay you for anything. And they will do everything in their power to never pay off on anything. They want to keep the game is keep as much money as you can. And they will do that. And I said to him, I said, wait, in every case, whenever an insurance company was trying to screw me over, I just went to him and said A, B, C, and D. He said, here's the problem. That's what you do for a living. He goes, think about it. You do podcasts, you do documentaries where you call out the problem.
Yes.
They don't want to deal with you 2 steps down the road. That's money out of it. They rather just shut you up, give you
Yes.
what you're truly owed, and they'll just take it out on the next guy that's not going to ask questions.
This is highly accurate.
Right?
I would watch them in various claims. I could tell within 1 minute of asking the homeowner a little bit about them what resistance their insurance was going to give them. If they were a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
their claims were paid. If they were a CEO, an entrepreneur, if you have a podcast or you're influential, they don't really need you going on the air and talking about your experience. That's going to create a loss of a lot of customers. They would love you to talk about your great experience. Whereas, like in Alberta, for example, there was a lot of Filipinos there, new to the country, and wow, I noticed none of them are being accepted. None of their claims. Whereas you'd have teachers, because the teachers were part of the teachers union,
Mm-hmm.
they were more protected because the union would go to the bat for them and say, "Hey, we have 40,000 teachers as a policy." So this was very anecdotal,
Right.
but wow, the amount of profiling. And nowadays with LinkedIn and a quick Google search, they can tell in 2 seconds who to fight with and who not to fight with, who's going to lawyer up, who's not going to lawyer up. So yeah, your experience was in my experience, that's true. This happens a lot.
Yeah, look, I was driving across country in my F-150 Ford, and the Ford was causing problems. It would not start in the morning. It was an electrical thing, and I kept stopping at dealerships, and it was during COVID, and they would put it on a diagnostic machine and say there's nothing wrong with this truck. I would get it, I couldn't start it. Once I got it started, and I was driving back from California towards Virginia, I had actually my the guy who produced my first documentary with me, he was in a truck with me because we were working on my third documentary. He started videoing me talking, and we kept putting these videos up on X and on Instagram and everywhere else saying, yeah, I can't stop this truck. I have to keep it running and drive across the country nonstop, or if I stop, it might not start again. We were somewhere in Memphis, and my phone rang, and it said, it didn't show, it wasn't anyone I knew. It just said Dearborn, Michigan. A lawyer from Ford, right, got my number and called me and said, we will do whatever it takes to get you to stop tweeting. What can we do to help? It's like, listen, you guys blew me off in Santa Monica. You guys blew me off here. They wanted me to wear a mask and do all this kind of stuff just to go look at my car. And it's like all this weird stuff. And now you'll do anything. It's like, listen, just stop tweeting. We will fly you home. We will pick up your truck. We will fix it. We will do. And they did. Right? That's how important it is for someone to do the right thing. Right?
Yeah.
And then I got on Twitter after they took it. I said, look, this was great for me because I have a megaphone. You guys need to do the same thing. When something bad happens to you, you got to have your own megaphone to let people know what's going on. Right? They're not going to, Joe Schmo, who's not going to get out there and cause a stink online, it's not going to get anything. They're going to give me everything. Plane flights, towing my car halfway across the country, do whatever. Just shut up.
Yes.
Right? And that's what happened. And by the way, they did something that a motor company will never do. They bought my truck back and made me whole.
Wow.
Made me whole. You think they were going to do that for anyone? It's just not going to happen.
No, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I mean, if the insurance company is nothing more than an algorithm that assesses risk based on this, if somebody has a platform or financial resources or a lawyer or whatever, they pose to be a higher risk for
Right.
X company. So yeah, I've seen this happen myself.
We're going to move on, but before we do that,
yeah,
I need to tell everyone about something very healthy. Olive oil. Olive oil, folks. Listen, when people ask me which supplements I take, I always include olive oil. And they'll say, no, I mean the supplements, Vin. Come on, you own a supplement company. Yeah. Those supplements are great. But olive oil is a supplement I take every day. In other words, if I'm not having it on a salad, because I don't eat that many salads, I will drink a little ounce and a half jigger of it every day. Straight olive oil. Now, here's the deal. Not all olive oils are created equal. You can actually put words like virgin, extra virgin, quadruple virgin. The tree doesn't even know the olives are missing. It's so virgin. First cold press. All of that is jargon that the companies can use. But in the good old US of A, you can cut olive oil up to 40% and still call it pure extra virgin olive oil. Because in fact, there's some pure extra virgin olive oil in there, 60% of it. The rest of it is seed oils, folks. And then once you do that, it's rancid. So they have to add an odor and a color to it. So they're adding even more junk. You want the good stuff? Villa Capelli olive oil. Villa Capelli, the longest running sponsor on this show. Guys have been with us for about maybe 11 years, have not missed a month. Villa Capelli. It's the only oil I use here. It's the only oil you should use at your house. Now, here's the thing. There's a couple of ways to save because real olive oil ain't cheap. That's the other way you could tell if it's good or not. If you go in and it says Bartoli and you could get a whole gallon of it for nothing, you know that you're not buying real olive oil. Here's 3 ways to save money. First, get the 3-liter tin because the more you buy, the cheaper something becomes. It's just the way the world works. Number 2, put in promo code Vinnie, VINNIE, no wimpy Y, and you'll save 10%. But wait, there's more. If you spend more than $125 after the Vinnie discount, so let me do the math for you. if you spend $140. So you can buy the olive oil, get the 3-liter 10, buy a couple of, they have the herbes de la Provence. They got the hot olive oil. You get the little thing. Spend $140 minus 10%. That's 126. You will get free shipping on 3 liters of olive oil. Folks, you can't miss out. 3 liters will last you a long time unless you live in my house. Villa Capelli, the longest running sponsor in the show. Promo code Vinnie, Vinnie. Save a lot of money at Villa Capelli Olive Oil. We're talking to the guy who started a little company that's doing great things. Mike Feldstein. Feldstein. We're going with Steen, right?
We're going with Steen.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about your company. I'm going to tell you what I know about these air purifiers.
All right.
And you tell me, I'm going to start with, I was living in a guest house in Beverly Hills back in the late 90s. And it was owned by a very close friend of mine who had houses all over the world. She was a billionaire. And I lived in the guest house. And there was this thing standing up in the corner. It was skinny and tall. And I walked over to it and I was like, what the hell is this? And she says, it's an air purifier and it works magnetically. It magnetically pulls stuff out of the air. And I went, okay, do I have to clean this thing? She goes, no, Rosa will come in every 3rd or 4th day and take the cover off and wipe it down. And one day I happened to be home and Rosa was in there and she took that cover off. And I was interested. And I said, Rosa, how does this work? I don't see any kind of mesh in there or anything, or whatever. She goes, oh, magnetically it catches the dust and the whole thing. And I saw her wiping down these big chrome looking deals up and down. And there was some junk on it, right? I mean, that's kind of cool. But, it is what it is. Cut to my daughter finished law school. She's heading off to New York. So we get dumped a lot of stuff here that my daughter had, and one of them, I wrote it down here, was called the Conway Air Mega. Ever hear of it?
Conway?
Is it Conway?
Yeah, no N. I'm very familiar with the brand.
I wrote down Conway, but it could have been.
A lot of people do that.
Yeah. So it's kind of a square box, kind of a circle. All right. So she leaves it here, and I open it up, and of course, it's full of dog hair and this and that and the whole thing. And that thing had 2 filters in it. It was kind of a charcoal filter with a filter behind it. I went on Amazon. I'm going to try this for a while. I went on Amazon and it gave me 2 sets of filters. I put a brand new filter in it. A month later, I opened it. That filter was nasty. I took it out. I put another one in and I ran that for a while. At some point, kind of forgot about it. It got turned off. It got unplugged and it just sat. Now it's sitting in a storage space. And I've always wondered, it's like, I wonder if I should have that thing out again, if it's worth it. Now, I went on and I looked at the Conway, the cost of the Conway. And the one I have was like $200 some odd dollars. Let's call it $210, give or take. Now, in full disclosure, your company, I don't know if you know this, but your company is sending me free of charge an air filter machine.
Great.
And I looked it up.
Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, Liz. See, you didn't even know anything about it, right? But I always do full disclosure. I don't take anything, I didn't take this to give you a positive review. I don't have it yet. I don't know if your filter is good or not. I don't know what it is, right? But Liz says, you got to try this filter. And I looked, and the cheapest one you seem to have is more than double that price. Explain to me. I always say when you pay more, you're getting something, right? I always say you buy cheap, you buy twice. I saw this Conway catch a lot of stuff. And I saw this thing back in the late 90s that was a magnetic thing catching a lot of stuff. Now, I haven't looked up your product yet. I don't know what it does, but pit yours against the Conway and whatever that magnetic thing was. Ionic, it was called Ionic or something. I don't know what it was called. Explain the difference and what I'm going to be receiving here in the next couple of days.
Sure. Well, let's going back to the olive oil, Villa Capelli's olive oil, the way you described the Villa Capelli olive oil was almost to a T the way that I described Jaspr. So the way that you mentioned that other brands are able to use very gimmicky marketing techniques that sound good at the surface but don't actually add up, that's the same over here. And that's why Villa Capelli's, I was looking it up as you were talking, costs a lot more than the olive oil that we buy at the grocery store, because you're probably getting a lot more. And I do agree that when you pay more, you get more most of the time. Obviously, not always, but it is indeed expensive to be cheap. So the magnetic one, this technology is not really used anymore, because the fact is not that they can't work for dust and some things like that, but you have to clean those things like every few days. This is just not a practical solution at all. The Kowei is actually quite a good brand.
Okay.
So just to start off, in terms of anything you could have bought at Walmart, Best Buy, Amazon, Home Depot, that kind of thing, the Kowei it's good. It's a good product. Now, where Jaspr is different, Jaspr is really an air scrubber. A Kowei is an air purifier. What's the difference? So most of those little things you see, $199 to $499, those are air purifiers. They purify your air. An air scrubber is a term used in the restoration industry. Air scrubbers is what I was using for mold, for floods, for fires, significant heavy-duty stuff. And the vision for Jaspr was to create the world's first air scrubber designed for your home. So when I got home from a really big wildfire in 2016, I brought the air scrubber at home. I put it in the basement when I was living in Toronto. And friends would literally come over and be like, whoa, like it was like mountain fresh air. But what they didn't know, it was very loud and very ugly. So we would literally like turn it on, turn it off. It was like a truck was living in our basement. My wife likes interior design. She's like, yo, you cannot keep this thing in the house. Like, I agree that the air is nice, but like, this is too loud. It's too inconvenient. So the vision was, how do we create an air scrubber that's beautiful and quiet? Because you had these little air purifiers that were ineffective. And then you had these air scrubbers that were super effective, very industrial, very loud, very ugly. So, and I hated when I would go to restore a home after a wildfire. A week later, often the smoke would come back in and recontaminate the house, because often the ambient air can stay bad for several months after a wildfire. So here we detox the whole home. A week later, it's contaminated again. Like, what did we just do this for? They needed ongoing air filtration, whether it's for a mold issue, dust, pollen, etc. So at its core, the Kowei is a nice little sedan, and the Jaspr, it's like we had pickup trucks or tractor trailers and sedans, and there was no SUV. Right. Jasper's kind of like filling that SUV category. It can take the kids, take the bags, be safe, and look good while doing it. So what does that practically mean? One Jaspr is typically like 3 to 5 small air purifiers. Okay. So you could get to the same result if you put 3 Koweis in your bed. You could end up at the same place. So the big difference is we make it out of steel, no plastic. Everything's made out of cold rolled steel. The life expectancy is about 25 to 30 years, which is why we have a lifetime warranty. And our warranty is pretty badass. As proud as I am of Jaspr, I'm more proud of our service. So the way it works is, let's say your Jaspr breaks. It does happen. It's an electronic product. We ship a brand new one out the next day. You take the new one out of the box. You put the old one in the box. We send you a prepaid shipping label. So we pay for the shipping both ways. You don't go to FedEx. You're not printing labels. You don't have to get boxes and old receipts. We trust our customers deeply. No hoops to jump through, because in my opinion, I hate when I buy a product with a warranty and then it's time to get the claim, and they make me feel like a liar and a cheater. I got to sit on the phone, take photos, take videos, buy a box, go to FedEx. It's almost not even worth it. So, and by the way, we only make one product. There's only one Jaspr. There's no big one. There's no small one. It's just the Jaspr. So my thought is, instead of making 7 or 10 different products, just make the best product. So we don't make water filters and diffusers and candles and faucets and home goods. We only make one air scrubber, and we keep improving upon that. So a couple other differences. Our filter weighs about 4.5 pounds. Most air filters, like the actual filter, the machine's 25 pounds, but the filter inside of it is typically about 0.5 pound. Jasper's is 4.5 pounds. It's very industrial in nature. When you see it, when you feel it, highly industrial. We have no apps. We have no Wi-Fi. We have no Bluetooth. I don't want anything. I don't need a smart microwave or a dishwasher or an air filter. So, and also a lot of our customers are very EMF conscious. So people don't want the apps and the Bluetooth. And for that reason, we kept it incredibly simple. But what really most air purifiers, air scrubbers you see, and we are the only air scrubber residentially available, but most air purifiers, they're all trying to tell you that they have the best filter and we filter 99.999% of 0.3 microns, etc. They almost all do that. So when you read most lab studies, what they do is you go to the third-party lab, and there's a sales guy who works at the lab. You know, everyone talks about their third-party studies, even though they don't publish them most of the time.
Right.
You go to these labs, and there's a sales guy, and he goes, "Hey, what's your marketing claim?" And then we can reverse engineer a test to help you make that claim. So that's what they're like. Oh, we want to say that we filter viruses. We want to say we filter mold spores. We want to say we filter dust. So they take the filter out of the machine, they put it in a little tiny box in a very controlled setting, and they very gently put air passing through it. So of course it's very effective. It's not a real world example. This would be the same as testing the 0 to 60 in a car, not on the pavement. Wow, fastest car ever. No kidding, there's no friction. They're testing it on the lift. I want to know the 0 to 60 on the road.
Right.
So the kind of studies we do, and we're very forthcoming with our studies. So we did a mold study. It's on our website. Literally, we link to the actual lab data. The way we like to do studies is you should not take the filter. That's like testing the engine of a car. I want to know how the car performs, not some engine stats.
Right.
What we do, when we work with the lab, they actually fill the room with mold spores, and then they turn the Jaspr on, and you test the air before, during, and after. So in 1 hour, we removed 97.1% of the mold spores. In 3 hours, we removed 100% of the mold spores. Now, to me, this is not that impressive because that's the same thing I was doing when I was remediating homes after mold. How do you clean up a mold situation? You isolate the room, you remove the wet, moldy drywall, and you scrub the air. So that's how you clean mold. And so really it comes down to the size and the amount of airflow. So when you look at a brand, you're walking down the aisles in Target, it says, wow, it covers 1,500 square feet, 99.99%. It sounds so good. What they don't tell you is, what does 1,500 square foot coverage really mean? They don't tell you that was in a perfectly controlled room with 7-foot ceilings, and the machine was on full speed for the test. Most people keep Jaspr on the lowest fan speed 99% of the time because it's silent. So often these little air purifiers in a bedroom on top speed, they do something, but in their lower setting, they do nothing. So these are basically, it all comes down to the industrial nature of the machine. And then on the screen, it shows you the air quality in real time. So you're going to find anytime you cook, use cleaning products, if you barbecue outside, you're going to watch it go from a green and a 4 to 50, 60, 100. You watch the fan speed kick up and come back down. If somebody used a vaporizer or smoked and even walks into your home, it's going to kick up. If you're using any cleaning products, shampoos, conditioners, drying hair with anything that has toxins in it, you're going to watch Jaspr respond. So we used really good sensors and really like foundational, fundamental components, and then we made it look good. So that's the difference.
Okay, real world. I'm going to get this product. And you said you just sell one product, right? It's just one.
Just one.
So I guess that's what's going to be showing up. The
Yep,
one.
the one.
My space here is probably 800 square. You know, my gym / whatever you want to call this area. Obviously, I don't want that thing right next to me while I'm watching television, unless it's really that quiet.
You will not hear it. I use it in the podcast studio all the time. There's
But
one right beside me now.
I had it back here by my podcast area, back here by I have a coffee bar behind me.
Okay.
I have in my gym. Let's say I have it right here in the gym portion of what we're doing. It's going to clean this whole room. It's going to.
Yeah, it would. That's not on that site space. It would, but I would still tell you I would put it in my bedroom.
Really?
100%. I would put it in. You should put it in your bedroom on fan speed 2 or fan speed 3 on dark mode. So, my sister Sarah, her husband's name is John. He was snoring for years, almost a decade. They put the Jaspr in their bedroom on fan speed 2. That night he didn't snore, and he hasn't snored since. So then they went to San Antonio for the weekend. No Jaspr, snored. Came back, Jaspr on, no snoring. So we did a sleep study last year. We gave 150 people Jaspers who had Aura rings. People who were influencers, doctors, just regular people, man, woman, all over the country, sleep apnea, different health issues, the widespread. And the average, and they all, in exchange, they gave us 1 month of sleep data. The average person slept 25 minutes more per night and 18% more deep sleep. So we're doing another study now that's called the Snore Study, because we're getting emails every single week from people who, husband and wife, were sleep divorced. Husband snores, they stopped sharing a bedroom, they put the Jaspr in the bedroom. Now they're sleeping in the same room together, and they're sleeping through the night, and their sleep quality is dramatically improved. So, yes, it's helpful for working out. Yes, it's good for cooking. But I tell people, should I buy 3, 4, 5? A lot of people have many. If you put one in your bedroom on fan speed 2 or 3, that's where the life-changing stuff happens. That's where the, like, I travel with mine. That's where it's undeniable, and it's a felt sense. No lab data is going to matter. You're going to wake up feeling fantastic. And a lot of people who snore or clear their throat, gone. People with seasonal allergies that are itchy, dry eyes, runny nose, phlegm, whatever. The reason that happens for people, and it just brings me so much joy when I can see this outcome, is, and I made this thing for wildfire smoke. I never thought we were going to be doing, I made Jaspr just to sell after wildfires. There was never an intention of being a sleep product or a wellness product. That was not even on my radar. I never even heard of podcasts back then. So what happens is right now you're breathing in mold, pollen, allergens, pollution, the rubber from the tires. It's indoor air is on average 5 to 10 times dirtier than outdoor air.
Right.
So the same way that if you take a fish who's in a dirty fish tank and you put them in a clean fish tank, they start thriving.
Right.
Most people's homes are dirty fish tanks. We just can't see and feel the air. It's too abstract. But you're beat down because 24 hours a day, you're breathing all those contaminants, all those toxins, all those pollution. When you turn your bedroom into a clean air sanctuary, what happens is now you're going from 1 million particles, you're making the air 20 times cleaner. Now your body knows how to heal and recover and rest. So when you lower that stress burden, that toxin load throughout the night, then when you go out into the world, we're adapt. We can handle a little mold. We can go by a little road construction. We can take a little bit of pollen and some allergens, but it's that 24 hours a day beatdown that really impacts people.
Yeah.
And when you can rest and recharge and heal, you find yourself just completely resilient. And that's the stuff that just fills my heart.
Yeah, I always notice, whenever I spend a lot of time in the mountains, whenever I'm in the mountains, you just feel better. You just, because the air is clear up in the Rockies. You get up, you get up into, you go up to Mont Blanc and some of these places. The air is just that much better. My wife.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. My wife sleeps with the windows open. It can be 20 degrees outside, and there's going to be a crack in the window. She likes the fresh air flowing through. She likes sleeping cold. Will it work with the windows open?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So this is a good thing too. It's carbon dioxide. So this is the time now where I want to tell people some free stuff that they can do today that doesn't take any investment at all.
Right.
It's a perfect segue. So first of all, for $100, if you Google DIY air purifier, there's one called the Corsi Rosenthal box. It's a good design. But if you type in DIY air purifier on Google, it's about $100 from Home Depot. That is going to blow most of the air purifiers from Walmart or Home Depot out of the water.
Really?
Yes. Where Jaspr makes sense for people, if they want something that's beautiful and quiet and has smart sensors and has warranty stuff. But if somebody's just like, yo, I can't afford that. I just want clean air in my bedroom and I need that. And I'm happy to run it on high speed, or I have wildfires and I need to deal with this. You can make a solid machine, a DIY for $100 or so. That's really good.
So I like guys like you, Mike, that'll come in here and go, look, we have this expensive product, but you can DIY it for a couple of bucks.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what this show is all about, right? I created a whole vitamin brand based on that. I made the Rolls Royce of vitamins, but I'm charging a Toyota price because I grew up poor, but I went to a private school. My parents decided to put us all in private school and just foot the bill. So we got to see how the wealthier kids lived, but we couldn't ever go to Aspen skiing in the winter break, and we couldn't go here and there. I never wanted to be that guy that said, hey, I'm just going to make stuff for people who can afford it. I want to make the really good stuff for people who can't afford it, because I was that guy most of my life, right? I've never understood why teachers' kids, my parents were teachers, why we couldn't have the cool stuff like everyone else, right? So I love that you have a DIY version.
And we don't sell it.
I know.
You can get it off Amazon, Home Depot. You can get the parts yourself. I thought about making a kit, but that defeated the purpose.
Yeah.
Our engineers are here to make the best thing.
Yeah.
But you can get very similar results with just a little less pretty, elegant solution. And I would much prefer people do that. But like that, going to the cracked window thing. So there's also a lot of time you can get something called a CO2 monitor, $50 to $150 off Amazon. There's several brands. I've never really seen a bad one. Inkbird's okay. The Aranet 4, ARANET4 is my favorite one. They're in the low hundreds of dollars. I carry one with me. That's telling you how much carbon dioxide's in the room. Mm-hmm. Because you want fresh air and you want clean air. Outdoor CO2, when I say CO2, I mean carbon dioxide. Outdoor CO2 levels are about 400. Indoor, 600 to 800. When that number gets over 1,000, we start getting the brain fog. We start getting fatigue. If you're ever in an office building, you're like, I just got to go outside to get a breath of fresh air. Stuffy. It feels stuffy in here. You're in an elevator for too long with too many people. Starts to kind of give you some anxiety. That's because the carbon dioxide is too high.
Right.
So I'll be at like someone's party or an event and I see people leaving. I start cracking windows, getting the CO2 down, and people stop leaving. So it's once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I was staying in Kelowna at a home in 2020, and I was sleeping 10 hours a night, waking up exhausted.
Wow.
Our CO2 in our bedroom is going from 650 to 3,300 at night.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So I was sleeping like a log, but I was not getting a restful sleep. The solution that ended up working for us, I could either crack the bathroom window. That worked. If it was smoky outside or too hot, too cold, I would open my ensuite door and I'd leave the bathroom fan on. Just by having the bathroom fan on connected to my master bedroom kept the CO2 under 900. And now I was sleeping 8 hours a night and waking up rested. Like, how wild that all I needed to do was turn on my bathroom fan at night. And now now me and my wife weren't being gassed by carbon dioxide, because this home didn't have a central HVAC system. It had baseboard heaters and heat pumps and mini splits. It didn't have a centralized system. So we'd close the door at night to keep the cats out. And we were just, especially me, I was mouth breathing at the time. So we're breathing in the oxygen, we're breathing out the CO2, and we got the CO2 levels way too high. And in a car, I've had a CO2 monitor in the car. I put that car in recirculate mode when the AC was running. Mm-hmm. It went from 600 to 3,300 in about 15 minutes. So when people are always opening their windows on a road trip to get some cold air, nope, that's not why you're doing it. That's what you think you're doing it. You're doing it to purge that carbon dioxide. So I have a pickup truck too. I always leave my sunroof kind of cracked on that tilt mode. Yeah. The back window opened about an inch, and it's just game changing. Now
sucking the bad air out. Yeah.
Yeah, you're exchanging the air.
So wait, Mike, that's practical advice. Is it better to keep a car, like I usually keep it on the fresh air coming in, unless I get behind a diesel truck that's, spewing it in, then I'll cut it on to recirculate, because I don't want to. Yeah. So
if you need to quickly heat it or cool it, that makes sense. If you're going through some garbage or nasty diesel thing, you hit that, you get through, and you unhit it. You definitely want that fresh air coming in.
So you don't want to do recirculate. And by the way, I tell people all the time, don't do it when you get the oil change. You can easily go to any of the Pep Boys or O'Reilly or whatever, and buy the little air filter. It's usually inside your glove compartment right there in your car.
Like the replacement cabin filters.
Yeah, the cabin filters, they're cheap.
I get mine off Amazon. They're about $11 each.
Yeah.
It's an upgraded one with carbon. I change it every month or two, and it's a huge difference.
I do, because my wife has a Subaru. I drive a Toyota. I have two Toyotas and a Subaru, and I do them all at the same time, and I do them quite often, and people go, "Oh, you should do it with the oil change." No, they'll charge you $30 or $40 to do something. It's as simple as opening up your glove
or
box.
$150.
It's crazy what they'll charge, and I buy a stack of them and just put new ones in all the time. And sometimes when you pull the old one out, you'll see rat crap in it, because in the winter, once your engine is hot, the rats will go, or the squirrels will go in there and they'll get to warm up. And you don't want rat crap going into your system. That's an easy fix to put that new air filter. But it's good to hear that you should be getting the outside air coming in. Speaking of air filters, I haven't looked up your product yet, right?
Good.
Because I figure I'd talk to you.
Stay blind.
Yeah, I'm blind to your product. So I'm figuring if you're scrubbing air, that filter has to get pretty nasty. Do you have to clean? Is it cleanable, or do you have to change it every time it gets nasty?
You change it every 6 months. Theoretically, the HEPA, it's a 3-in-1 filter. It's got a HEPA, a pound of activated granular carbon, like you can feel it, it's heavy, and then the pre-filter. Theoretically, the HEPA could probably last a couple months longer, but the carbon drops off a cliff around 6 months. So the HEPA is capturing physical particles, dust, mold, pollen, smoke, physical things that you could see under a microscope. The carbon is absorbing gas. So it helps a little bit with radon. It's not the solution. Cooking smells, odors, chemicals, perfumes, off-gassing from furniture or paint. That's what the carbon does. So our filter, you change yourself in about 20 seconds. Because it's a 4.5 pound deep filter, you're not cleaning it all the time. Now, the issue with cleaning filters, it's nice in theory, but if you take a vacuum to your filter and then you look at your filter under a microscope, the pleats are all ripped apart now. It's not even a filter anymore.
Right.
So it's nice, you see all the dust come off, and that's really satisfying. But the problem is you've just really damaged the pleats in the filter. So now the filter, instead of having these really tight holes that mold can't pass through, now you've just vacuumed it and pulled them apart. So once if anyone ever takes a filter, you lab test it after you vacuum it, it's going to fail every single test. So, it's always a balance, because we want to do everything to be like cost effective and easy. But at the end of the day, excellence and simplicity is our number one core value when it comes to a product for people. So that's why there's one filter that you change every 6 months. It automatically shows up at your door. It takes 30 seconds. We tried it. Our customers don't want to vacuum a filter every 2 months and change one filter and another filter. They've too many things. They got 99 problems, and changing their air filter shouldn't be one. So we keep it really, really simple, and we've optimized for the simplicity over everything.
What is your filter? Is it expensive or cheap, or what is it?
Well, that's up to the eye of the beholder. The filter is $199, but we bundle it with the lifetime warranty. And that's because all of our customers, they change their filter twice a year. And that's what, technically, could we make the filter $149 and then charge people $100 a year for like an Apple Care style warranty? Yes. But simplicity. So there's a reason why we have no bad reviews on the internet. It's because we only have happy customers. 3% of people buy it and they return it. The other 97% buy it and love it. And we want to serve the customers who want to be treated. There's a lot of other brands and a lot of other products, and there's great DIY solutions out there. I made the product for my family and for people like me. People who want simplicity, they want it to look beautiful, they want it to be quiet, they don't need any apps and gizmos. So we made it $199 because that's the lowest price we could make it and still offer like a VIP service. So we don't have a sales department or a customer service department. We only have air quality experts. So people who have been in thousands of homes and tested air. So people call us or they email us, they ask questions about their mold, their flood, their situation, their air. Everyone here is an expert. Nobody here makes less than $80,000 a year. So I believe a product is only good as the company that supports it. So there's no offshore reps. We just treat people good. And we found that if we lowered the price, we're like, oh shit, now we got to have a deductible. Now we got to charge them shipping for the return. So anytime that when we have a warranty claim, we ship you a brand new one, and we pay to get the old one back. And it's an interesting thing because people look at the price of the filter, but really it's the filter and the warranty that are combined. We say it's the last air purifier, last air scrubber you'll ever need to buy. So that's my long-winded sort of complex answer to it.
Well, look, we've kind of turned this into an infomercial, which I normally don't do, but I'm
Did
excited
not
about
want to.
this. I'm excited about this because I have one coming to the house, right? And I was going to just throw it in my office and go, all right, let's see what happens.
No, you can't
But
do that.
you're saying put it in the bedroom, and Mike, we may have you back on sooner than you think. I always have return guests, but my wife, if she gets better sleep out of this,
It's almost a guarantee.
you're going to be hearing back from me sooner than later because she's the litmus test. I can sleep in a war zone. If anything happens, if I ruffle the sheets at night, she'll wake up and then be up for the rest of the
If
night.
you can get her sold on fan speed 3, that would be the best, because
Right?
then it comes with a bit of a gentle white noise. At that speed, you'll hear it, but it's a beautiful, soothing, clean air kind of sound. So then the ruffling noises, that sound gets dampened as well. I just want to make sure that I cover a couple free tips for people that are really important also. So
Sure.
number one, bathroom fans after showers, they should be used for about 2 hours. Bathroom fans are not for poop smells, they're there for humidity. When you take a towel and you shower in it, there's a lot of moisture that's coming off that towel.
Sure. Yeah.
It could be a couple gallons of water that your mechanical system was not prepared to handle if you're not venting it out. And do a tissue test. Take a piece of tissue, hold it up to the bathroom fan, and make sure it's sucking it up. And make sure that the bathroom fan is venting out of the house. It should go to the attic and outside. Sometimes it's just dumping in the attic and giving you a big mold problem. The second one is your range hood. Interchangeable range hood is basically the vent over your stove.
Mm-hmm.
Use that thing at least on fan speed 1, no matter what you're cooking. Because even if you're using
my wife is big about smells, really big. So that fan is always on. As a matter of fact, when we redid the kitchen, we got the strongest one you could get, and we wanted to get one even bigger. And they said you would have to, you would have to get a bigger system pumping air into your kitchen because you're going to be pumping too much oxygen out, which I thought was crazy.
So that's good, but most people aren't using them. They're using it when they're cooking bacon, but they're not using it for day to day. It doesn't matter if you're using avocado oil and asparagus.
Right.
Because of the high heat and the proteins in the food, you're still creating a lot of carcinogens and byproducts in your air that are embedding. So you want to vent it out. When you're boiling stuff, use the back burner or the middle burner because that captures a lot more of the odors and particulate than the front burners. The front burners only catch in 60, 70%.
Really?
The back burners catch a lot more. Same thing, do the tissue test. Make sure that that thing, that your vent is actually, if it's not pulling the paper towel or the tissue out of your hand and holding it up there, it's not working. Most of them don't work. And a lot of them are venting into the drywall or venting above. Make sure it's venting outside your home. And also, do not wear shoes in your house. 95% of shoes that get tested have fecal matter on them. And they have glyphosate from the yard, and they got dog shit. So it's just like filtering your air is obviously great. What else is great is controlling the source. Using more non-toxic or low-toxic cleaning products. Non-stick pans are not great. Using high quality olive oil, shout out to the boys, is also a good tip as well.
Yeah.
Because you want to mitigate source. So keep the shoes out. Look at your bathroom fan. Look at your range hood. These are a few things, and I would really suggest a CO2 sensor just to keep an eye on it. I just anytime I have there's a pendulum, whenever I'm saying anything that is good about Jaspr, then I need to counter it with a DIY or a free tip or something that people can do immediately to keep that balance.
The problem we're going to have is, we have 2 dogs and 2 cats, and they're running in and out of the house all day long. And we do a lot of gardening. We don't use glyphosates around here, but we do a lot of gardening. We're in and out of the house, telling us to take shoes off. That part, I know it's good. It ain't going to happen. Right.
Well, then, if you're not taking off the shoes, there's a couple things that you can do.
Okay.
So when we test the average carpet, if indoor air has 5, if you're wearing shoes inside a lot, I would at least ensure that you're not stepping on carpets when your shoes are inside. Carpets can, when you do a carpet test, the air can be up to 1,000 times worse than normal.
Really?
Yeah. If you are still going to keep those carpets, I would be getting my carpets steam cleaned at least every 6 months because If you get your carpet steam cleaned and you watch the black water come out,
Yeah.
you will be shocked. But 50% of the dirt that comes on your carpet is also from your air. So if you are wearing your shoes inside, what happens is all that comes inside, and now you're breathing it all. Every time you walk on that floor, you're kicking up the poop, you're kicking up the particulate, you're kicking up the soil. So that's this time where scrubbing your air is important, because even if there's mold behind the drywalls or there's pollen and you're bringing stuff in, and there's dogs, you would never take a blanket, go outside, rub it on the ground, rub it on the tree, rub it on another dog's ass, and shake it out in your bed.
Right.
But that's what happens when you have pets. So for your situation, because of the pets and the gardening and the cooking and all that, I am so confident that your wife's sleep is going to be dramatically improved. And if it's not, shout it out. Tell everybody that didn't do a thing.
No, listen, I'm excited about this. She's going to be the canary. She's going to be the canary here. And Mike, I can't thank you for going overboard here. I like to keep these things to an hour. We're 10% over, 20% over that. We're at an hour and 12 minutes here. Hang on. I want to say goodbye to you off the air, and we have to wait for this to upload anyway. Folks, purevitamin.club.com is the purest vitamins on the planet. I'm not saying that because I own the company. I'm saying that because it's the absolute truth. Purevitamin.club.com was started because I could not find a pure source for a multivitamin. That was the first one I made. And when I figured out I can make one for myself, the vitamin company goes, okay, you got to buy 10,000, I think it was 20,000 bottles of this to make it worth your while. Wait a minute, I only need one bottle at a time. So that's when I came up with the club idea, purevitaminclub.com. You guys are in the club, right? Just like me, I'm taking the same vitamins you're taking. Purevitaminclub.com. Go there right now, get your vitamins. And we keep the price. It's the best vitamins in the world. We keep the prices very reasonable. Rate and review this podcast. We all go shopping on Amazon. I'm a big influencer there, as you guys know. Before you go to Amazon, go to VinnieTortorich.com. Click through the banner. It puts a little coal on the fire. It gets my train down the track, and we're able to keep this show free for a gazillion years in a row. On behalf of our good friend, Mike Feldstein, put life into living, and let's do it with a song called 99 Problems, which Mike, everything reminds me of a song. He brought up 99 Problems during the show. So we're going to listen to this by one Mr. Jay-Z.